Hello friends, subscribers and new viewers of this channel, and welcome to C++ tutorials for robotics and machine learning. In this C++ tutorial, we explain how to correctly read numerical values from files in C++. More precisely, we will present a minimal C++ working code that will open a file containing numerical values and that will sequentially read numerical values from the file. The values that are read will be stored in C++ double data type. The material presented in this tutorial is very important for reading sensor information or for loading numerical data that is saved by some other program. And let's immediately start. Over here you can see a small demo. Namely, here is my file. This is a text file that contains numerical values. And it really doesn't matter how numerical values are ordered. They can be in a single column, or you can have them having multiple columns, or you can just randomly put numbers. A very important thing over here is that you don't have characters. Then here is the code that reads the data and displays this data in the terminal window. And over here is the result. And now if you compare this with this file, you can see that all the values are correctly read. Let's start. First of all, I will open a command prompt. I like to start all of my C++ projects from the command prompt. Then I will navigate to my C drive, and over here I will create a workspace folder. I will call this folder as test CPP. Then I will navigate to this folder, and before I actually open my favorite C++ editor, I need to mention the following. To compile the C++ files, I'm using the GCC, or better to say G++ compiler. If I type over here G++ version, you will see the type of compiler I'm using, and I installed this compiler by installing min.gw. I will post a separate video tutorial on how to install min.gw and this compiler, and a link will be given in the description below this video. Then, my favorite C++ editor is Visual Studio Code. To start Visual Studio Code, I need to type code and dot. And here it is. Let's create a new file. Click on File, New File, and I will call this file as testread.cpp. And let's save this file inside of this folder. And let's start with coding. The first step, as always, is to include the necessary header files. First of all, I need to include input-output stream, since I will be printing something in my terminal. Then I need to include fstream. Fstream header file contains class declarations and definitions that are used to read data from files. And then over here, to simplify notation and not to have two verbose C++ statements, I will use namespace.std, and that's it. Here is my int main function, and I always like to return 0. That is, for me, 0 is success. Anything else that is any number except 0 means that there is a failure in my program. The first step is to create, or better to say to declare, an object that will be used to open a file that contains data and to read the data from the file. Consequently, let's write a comment over here. Object that is used to open a file and read data from the file. The declaration goes like this: ifstream, and we need to specify the name. I will call the object input stream. ifstream is actually defined in fstream, And let's investigate this definition or declaration. Let's click here and let's click over here, go to the definition, and you can see over here that we have this class std basic if stream. That's the class that governs opening the file and reading data from the file. That is, we are going to use input stream to open the file and to read the data. Simple as that. Okay, next, let's declare a double value, and I will simply call it as value, and this variable will be used to store the data that will be read from the file. Next, we need to open the file. So over here, let me type a comment, open the file. To open the file, we simply need to type input stream, and there is a method called open. And then we need to specify the name of the file. The name of the file is data.txt. Currently, I didn't create data.txt file, however, I will do it later on. Now, a standard programming practice is to check if we were able to open the file. There are several ways to do that. I like to use this approach. I will simply type if, then I will type input stream over here, then I will ask, or better to say, call the function fail. The fail function will simply check if there is an error or an exception that can happen during opening the file. Namely, what can happen, the file might not exist or there might be some other error. So consequently, if that thing happens, let's print a message over here, fail to open the input file, and let's end the line, and over here let's exit with 1, and exit 1 means failure. Okay, if we were able to open the file, let's proceed. But before we proceed and before we explain how to actually read the data, let me show you another thing. Namely, input stream has several methods that can be used to verify if file is actually opened. I will print this. Is the file opened? And then over here, I will simply call the method input stream, then is open. And if the file is open, this function is open will return 1. Otherwise, it's going to return 0. And this is a very good check. Good. Let's end the line and let's continue. Next, we need to explain how to actually read the values. To read the values, we need to simply use an operator. Namely, if you remember, when you read the data by using the CIN function, you will simply type something like this. CIN, and then you will type value. This means that CIN will go to the terminal, read one value, that is one number, and store this number inside of value. Well, a similar thing can be used with the defined input stream. Instead of using CIN, we are simply going to use this object input stream, and then we are going to use this operator, which is called the extraction operator, and we will simply store the result in value. Now, if the value is being successfully read, that is, if we didn't reach the end of the file, then this whole statement actually will return 1. To repeat, input stream, then this operator value, which is called actually the extraction operator, will return 1 if we were able to read the value. Otherwise, it's going to return 0. And we can use this trick actually to read the complete file. So what we will do over here, we will put this statement inside of the while loop, and inside of the while loop we are going to simply print the value. Cout red value, and then we will print here the value and we will end the line. Simple as that. Look how elegant it is. And the code is not very verbose. It's very elegant. So again, input stream with this operator, which is called the extraction operator, will read the value. If we are able to successfully read the value, good. This returns 1 and the while loop is executing and we are reading the value. In the next iteration, we read the next value, we print the value. We read the next value, we print the value until we reach the end of the file. Simple as that. Now, what is very important to observe over here, it doesn't matter if our file contains spaces or new lines. Namely, we're simply going to read number by number, and it doesn't matter if there are spaces or new lines between numbers. If there are some other characters, then that might be an issue. However, here we assume that the file is properly formatted. Good. Then, after we complete our while loop, that is, after we read all the values and we print them on a computer screen, we need to close the file. So let's first of all write a comment, read the values and print them, and over here we need to close the file. Close the file. Don't forget to close the file. This is a very important step. Otherwise, if you don't close the file, some other program will not be able to use the file, and over here we return 0. Simple as that. Nothing special. Let's save this file, and before we compile this file, let's create a test data. So I will click here and I will start Notepad. And let's create test data. 12, 12.1, minus 89. Then I will start a new line, 0. Then I will type minus 9.1, minus 99.9, or something similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 10, 19. Yeah, that's it. Now let's save this file. Let's go back to the code and let's see what's written over here. The name of the file should be data.txt. So let's do file, save as, and let's save the file. C, let's find the folder. It's actually recently being created, so it just created today. It's called test cpp. Let me just locate it. Here it is, and let's save the file as data.txt. That's it. Let's now go back over here and make sure that file is over there. Yes, it's here. Let's make sure that there are no compiler errors over here. Namely, Visual Studio C++ will automatically detect errors. We don't see any error over here. And the next step is to compile this file. To compile this file, I will use the GCC compiler, and I will call it from the command line. To use the GCC compiler, I will type G++. I'm using G++ since I'm compiling a C++ code. Then I will use this option W all and W. This means that I want to display all the warnings and all the errors. Then I need to specify the output file. The name of my executable file will be simply test read, the same as the source file. And finally, I need to specify the test read source file. And that's it. Let's run this and let's hope there are no errors. There are no errors. Let's see our executable file. Here it is. Perfect. Let's now run it. Test read and bang. Here it is. Now what usually happens on my computer is that for some reason my antivirus sometimes slows down the execution. So here it is. Is the file open? It is, right? This is actually this statement over here. And then we are simply printing the values, and here are the values again. So we have 12, 12, 12.1 minus 89, 0, minus 9.1, etc. So we can add more values. So let's add zeros, then ones, ones, ones. Let's save this, and let's again run this test read, and here it is. Perfect. Okay, that's all for today, and thanks for watching.